Hello, my name is Anthony Williams, Mayor of Abilene, Texas, and I've certainly enjoyed being mayor of this community. Every year we have State of the City address, and this, as you know, is my last State of the City address. We're going to talk about some things that we did well last year, and more importantly, talk about the bright future that we have as a community. I served on council the last 21 years, mayor the last 6. And we've had some successes and we've had some opportunities. But overall, I feel real good about things we've been able to do. Let's talk about our city government. As you know, we have 7 council members. We have 3 on the north side, 3 on the south side, divided by the railroad tracks. And the mayor is elected and could be on either the north or the south. We are a policy-making entity. So our goal in this community is to set policy for our administration. The council has 4 employees, a city manager, which is Robert Hanna. We have a city attorney, that's Stanley Smith. We have a city secretary, and that is Shauna Atkinson. And then we also have a municipal judge. Those 4 employees are our oversight. And as you see on the graphics, they have a number of individuals that work and serve with them. I'm going to talk about our priorities as a council, and I'll talk about the things we did well and things you should be aware of. Infill redevelopment is always important. As you know, the downtown hotel will open up this summer. It's been a 25-year conversation, but because of generous donations from the private sector, as well as the state of Texas joining with the city of Abilene, providing hot tax, Abilene is going to have an $81 million hotel. This was part of a larger conversation, though. It wasn't about the hotel, that parcel of land. It was about a 10-point economic plan that was put together several years ago and talked about the need for a catalyst for downtown to allow Abilene to be able to reap some benefits. And what has occurred, we will have an additional $200 million of investment in the near downtown area. The downtown hotel itself provides an additional 125 employees who make on the average a little over $30,000. Now, that's not a lot of money within itself, but we'll talk about job creation and growth. As you know, I'm from Abilene, and the zip code that I grew up in was Northwest Abilene. The median income is around $22,000 a year. So any job that we add that exceeds that is an opportunity for this community. And so coupled with a downtown hotel, I think you see a lot of activity in downtown Abilene. In fact, we surveyed a number of business owners and investors a few years ago. They mentioned one reason they were making those said investment was because of downtown hotel. And again, that is near $200 million. A lot of things are important. In a bit, we'll talk about water, we'll talk about Dallas Air Force Base, we'll talk about safety, but the forefront, economic development is the most important thing I think we can do. Because when a woman or a man has an opportunity for a good paying job, that person has dignity. And when that person has dignity, that whole family has dignity. And when families have dignity, they will engage in ways they would not do so without that dignity. Over the last year and recent years, we foster and facilitate opportunities where more of our families have dignity. I'll give you a few stats. Abilene was the very first municipality in the state to have a development corporation. Now over 800 designations exist for development corporations. A half-cent of sales tax is set aside in a kitty to incentivize the private sector to invest. And in recent years, the last 4.5 years specifically, there have been more jobs added, more jobs retained than the previous 15 years. In regards to capital investment, so money that's been invested in our community by the private sector, there have been more private sector investment dollars in the last 3 years than the previous 31 years. If you think about going back to 2 years ago, and going forward in a 5-year term, there'll be 700 new jobs in Abilene, Texas, all of which pay more than $45,000 a year. I would say that this community has provided more opportunities for dignity, and that means something. That work will continue. In fact, you'll hear in the near future about an additional 175 new jobs, all of which pay above $45,000 a year. Abilene, throughout COVID-19, has grown. In fact, our GDP locally has grown $600 million. All that bodes well economically. But we got to talk about water. Here in semi-arid West Texas, water is always important. If you remember, in 2013, Abilene had 3 sources of water. You have Ivy, Hubbard, and Lake Fort Phantom. Ivy, in the fall of 2013, was within a few months of the inability to produce any water at all. Fort Phantom was 14 feet below the spillway, and Hubbard was at less than 20% capacity. If you also recall that spring, the spring of 14, Wichita Falls was within months of having no water, and were having meetings about cloud seeding and other desperate things. And so we went to work in Abilene, and we worked since then. If you look at West Texas, the communities of Abilene, Midland, Lubbock, Odessa, West Texas, we've spent over $1 billion in water security. Abilene today, because of the good work that's been done in recent years, is in a better position for water than any other community in West Texas. In fact, there's enough water the next 70 years. And you should know that. There's few things more precious than water. Streets. Streets are always important. It's something that I've said publicly, as the city administration has also communicated, is for around 3 decades. City administration did not do a good job of talking about the reality of our streets, and the council, of which I was a member of, lacked enough courage to address our streets. And it's accurate to say that some money that we're paying today is money that should have been spent years ago, and it's more expensive. When I became mayor in 2017, I made a commitment that we're going to have a plan for streets, and there'll be no more can kicking. It will address streets. And so since then, we have invested $123 million in our streets. Some of that is from a bond in 15, but most of that is money that came from the street maintenance fee. And how that works, to be sure that we're clear, most municipalities rely just on bonds. So they go out, they have a bond, incur some debt for that bonds, so 20-year commitment, and they use that money for streets. The challenge is some of that money that the citizens have approved is paying for interest. In recent years, Midland had a bond for $100 million for streets, Amarillo, $100 million for streets. What we've done with street maintenance is all that money goes towards streets. And so this year, we will invest $30 million just on our streets. And the good thing about the street maintenance fee, unlike a bond, at any time you can tap the brakes. That fee is renewed every year by the council. And so I would encourage the council going forward to continue the street maintenance fee. And the thing is, because of the state of our streets, there may be a need for a small supplement in regards to a bond that will allow us to be able to throw a significant amount of money in our streets, so we then have the ability to continue to address our streets. There will be a new comp plan that will come up in the future, and what a comp plan is a vision for the city in regards to managed growth. In 2004, we approved our current comp plan, And that was the first one since 1973. And so looking now 19 years from '04, we're putting together another plan. That plan is very important in regards to how we have the ability toward the private sector and then create and incentivize opportunity that allows us the ability to help Community Abilene grow. I mentioned infill and redevelopment earlier, and they have been and there are ongoing conversations with the private sector that will allow us to be able to partner with them to invest in some areas of Abilene. I remember years ago in the early 2000s, Mayor Barr had completed what was called the ACE study. And the ACE study looked at infill or redevelopment, and it identified about 300 acres of empty lots inside the core of the city and around 1,100 in totality. And we're thinking about how do we incentivize and partner with the private sector that will encourage them to develop. And we've had some success. And in fact, I would say for future councils, it may be the best opportunity to address the erosion that's occurred the last 4 decades in the core of our city, and more specifically, the north part of our city. And how that has worked for the communities. What we've done here is that we have lowered the hurdle for would-be investors if they would invest in the city. And if you look at the downtown area and also some housing that's occurred in the north downtown, you can see an opportunity for that to benefit. Dyess Air Force Base. I can think of $1 million a day why Dyess Air Force Base is important. And the work of the MAC, the military entity that we have set aside, has done a great job, led by Gray Bridwell. The B-21 will be in our community in the late 20s or maybe early 2030s. And what that represents in today's dollars is about $60 million additional dollars. The work we've done with the Military Affairs Committee, the MAC, is trying to extend the life of the B-1. And we're hopeful that the work with the B-1 and that life will extend until we transition to have an opportunity for the B-21. Of course, we have the C-130J as another mission, Dyess Air Force Base. As you may know, Abilene has been so successful in providing a culture and environment for the Air Force. The Air Force award in regards to how they identify communities that respond to the needs of airmen. Abilene has been so impressive. That award was renamed the Abilene Award. And so we want to continue the work of assisting the airmen, those who protect and serve this community. You will have an opportunity to weigh in the future on a possible bond for a rec center. I believe that the newest operating rec center is over 50 years old. And you will have an opportunity with future councils to talk about what that may look like. I would encourage you to think about the way we retain and recruit talent. More and more young families and young professionals have an expectation for quality of life. As you know, in 2015, one of the bond items was Cedar Creek Waterway project. And after years of negotiating with landowners and other interests, the TNP Railroad, concrete's being laid for the first phase of Cedar Creek Waterway. Believe that was a little over $1.1 million in regards to a bond allocation in 15. But I think that's very, very significant, and I think a good way that we continue to have an opportunity to add quality of life in our community. I've certainly enjoyed being mayor. I love Abilene, Texas. Abilene, Texas has been very good to me. And I hope as mayor, you appraise the work that I have done that's worthy of this community. I've mentioned to people, after 21 and a half years, it's a bit emotional realizing I'm not going to be on the council anymore. And I would say this, I think I have done well as mayor. In fact, I would say I probably have been a better mayor than I've been husband to my wife. And as I transition in my own life, I want to spend and do a better job of being a better family man. Tremendous sacrifice being on the council. We do this all for free. We volunteer our time, and in this world of social media and just the nature of the time that we live in, it is tough. All that said, I want to encourage the good women and men of this community to raise your hand and serve. The reason why Abilene has been so successful as a community, because women and men have stepped forward and served. And I'm glad to be in a company of those who have laid a foundation for me and others of service in our community. I may not be mayor after May, but I'm going to still serve this community and try to do my part to make my very unique contribution to this community. And so I wish you well. I wish this community well. And I'll just say to you, my neighbors, Godspeed to you.